Okay, so for tomorrow, Friday, we have our bell ringers ready to roll, right? Okay, I'm going to come around and check them here in class. Those of you at home, Friday, okay? If you send it to me Saturday, Sunday, next week, forget about it. Right, Rooster? Forget about it. Yeah, ain't give me credit for it. Vocab terms, same thing. For those of you in here, I'll just come around and check them. No big deal. Okay, for those of you at home, please submit them to me by Friday. If you don't, forget about it. Yeah, forget about it. Okay, so that is on the do list tomorrow. I will post a Google form to Classroom. That's how you'll access it. You have to use your own email, though, the Upper Dauphin area email. If you use another one, it won't work out for you. Sorry. So you need to know your UDA email. If you don't, it's not my fault. It's your bad. Okay. So current events. We have Alex, Kinsley, and Sarah tomorrow. Okay. Make sure you have those current. Okay. I don't want to hear about the D-Day invasion. I don't want to hear about the 72 flood. So I want a current event. Okay, so something that happened in the past week would be nice. I get it. If you want to do a week before, that's okay too. But something that's current, something modern times. Okay, so moving on. Bell ringer for today. Let's get that rolling.
Okay, do you have to do this part in the bottom, like the flashcards with the people? We have to do that part or not?
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. So guys, the people at the bottom, okay, the famous psychologists, please do those guys, because that will be on the quiz. A couple of them will, not all of them, but a couple. All right, I won't tell you which ones, but the real life examples, that's just to help you out. Okay, I mean, you don't have to necessarily get them done if you don't. It's just to help you out, right? It's just for you to relate it a little bit better in your own terms. Okay, that's what that is. All right. So describe what behaviorism is. How did Pavlov's experiment set the framework of what we know about this approach to psychology? So behaviorism. We talked about this yesterday. Behavioral approach. Maria, what's up? Did you have a question?
Oh, I was going to ask you if Gavin did something like that last year.
What's that?
Something about the
72 flood.
Yeah.
It wasn't Gavin, but he was teasing someone. But yes,
I know
someone did do that. I'm not saying who, but someone did do that. I did get the D-Day invasion the other day too, which I'm not saying names there either, but interesting. What's that?
I said I can relate.
Yeah. So describe what behaviorism is. How did Pavlov's experiment set the framework of what we know about this approach to psychology? We even can talk about Skinner if you want. Not Leonard Skinner, but P.F. Skinner. And we can talk about Watson. Right? Sherlock Holmes. Junior. Pretty good. DC. Stalking me yesterday again. Yeah, McKinley, that's what was right behind you. What's that? That was who's this guy? Pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. You all done, Megan? Okay. What are you reading?
This.
Curious George. Oh, okay. Nice. Those are pretty cool.
That's what I'm saying.
You have Disney Plus?
I don't because I don't have the time for that or the money. But every now and again I'll steal my sister's password for it.
There you go. You say they're all on there.
You went to see my bell ringers from last
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Check in my
Oh,
place.
that's right. I talked to you in that class. You're not in trouble.
You're good.
Yeah, just show me how after class.
After class?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll give you one more minute to finish up here. Let me make sure that everybody's on. Okay, good. Reed, you get to watch that video then that I posted. The one I didn't get to finish yesterday.
I didn't have the time.
You didn't have the time to. But you're staying out of Mr. Ayers' classroom at lunch all the time. You could have checked it out then.
That is my next class I have to go.
I think it's funny. You're always like peeking through. What are they doing there?
Actually, no. I'll let today be a surprise.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Let's go over this. What is behaviorism? What is the behavioral approach to psychology? What do we have? Rooster, go ahead.
I said it studies like it's like a stimuli and like the organism response to it.
Yeah, good job. So you have observable events, right? So you're observing, let's say, an organism, a person, okay, whoever it might be, an animal, right? And B.F. Skinner's case, it was rats, right? Pavlov, it was dogs. Okay, you're trying to see what these organisms might do when they're presented to certain stimulus. Okay, let me put this on. So when they're presented to certain stimulus, good job. So with Pavlov's experiment, describe that a little bit. What was that about? Remember? I know I talked about a bunch of them, well, 3. But what was Pavlov's? Alex?
Oh, that's he conditioned his dogs to salivate at the sound of the bell.
Yeah, good job. So the bell was a neutral stimulus, right? So obviously a dog wouldn't salivate or jump up and down when he sees or hears a bell, but he was classical conditioning his dog to a point where wherever he would ring a bell, that dog would start salivating, thinking that he's going to get fed, right? Okay. So over time, he presented food to him. He'd ring a bell, present food to the dog, and the dog would think, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get fed." Right? When I hear this bell, I'm going to get fed. And over time, Pavlov would just ring the bell, and the dog would start salivating, thinking that he's going to get fed. Right? So he thought, I conditioned this dog to salivate, thinking he's going to get fed just from a neutral stimulus, a bell. He didn't even present food to him. He didn't even smell food. Okay, he couldn't even see it yet. But once I rang the bell, this dog knew he was going to get fed, so he started salivating. All right, good. So that's Pavlov's. What about Watson? So we're going to talk about some of these experiments more next chapter when we get into research of psychology. What was another one? Rooster, go ahead.
Watson, he did the thing with little Albert, like with the rats, like he saw like the rats, so he started to make the Albert just to get the little Albert scared.
Yeah, good job. The little Albert experiment, right? So with the baby, he would introduce a rat, and then the baby would look at it, and he'd make a loud noise. Okay, and over time, all the baby would do, whenever he'd hear, obviously, would cry, the loud noise. And whenever he would see the rat, okay, whenever little Albert would see the rat, he'd start crying. He would just relate it to previous memories of the loud crashing noises that he would hear when he would see a rat. Okay, so again, he was just trying to build a phobia for this baby, and who knows, maybe Albert nowadays is still afraid of rats. I don't know, probably. But he thought, you know what, I could change this baby's reactions and and thoughts of this animal by introducing a stimulus. In this case, it was a loud noise, okay, and creating a phobia. So he's always trying to fight that nature versus nurture, right? You guys remember talking about the nature versus nurture, born with instinctive traits, or if you pick up these traits over time, okay, you learn or you have cognitive development of these traits over time. Okay, good. All right, so last one we talked about, B.F. Skinner. What did Skinner do with behaviorism and the behavioral approach? Not Leonard Skinner. Katie?
Didn't you say like he tried to like reinforce rats can use like positive and negative reinforcement to try to get them to push the lever to get them?
Awesome, good job. So reinforcement, right? So how you can introduce a negative reinforcement or a positive reinforcement to try to promote an organism, in this case a rat, to perform different tasks, okay, and learn. And this was a form of operant conditioning, okay? Operant conditioning. We'll talk about this more when we get to chapter 4, okay? But operant conditioning is when you're introducing some sort of reinforcement, okay? And B.F. Skinner used the lever. Whenever the rat would push the lever, food would drop down. Positive reinforcement. The rat's going to continue to do that. And then a negative reinforcement was introducing electrical shock. Whenever that rat would just run away, or, well, he wouldn't run, but he would just walk away from the lever. So the rat was trying to teach the rat to form cognitive connections with staying on one side of the cage where the food and the lever was, okay? So whenever the rat would walk to the opposite side of where the lever or the food was, he would just introduce an electrical shock, a negative reinforcement, okay? Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So behavioral approach, building on nurture, right? And how we can learn, how we can use observable events to build our conceptions of the world around us. Okay, how we can maybe react to certain stimulus, okay, in a positive way. Maybe it's reinforcement, okay, negative reinforcement. Okay, maybe it is just learning and observing events of how we can maybe picture our future, our characteristics, or personalities. Okay. All right. Is there any questions on that? All right. So I'll let you guys work on vocab for, how about a couple minutes here? How about 45? Okay, 45. What is it? 8:45, yeah. 9:45, sorry, 9:45. Maybe 9:50. I'll give it to you. 9:50. I'll play a song. How about that? What's up, Katie?
Okay, so I googled it to see who Albert is still alive. He's not. He passed away in 2007. But that
Wow.
rats eventually turned into other animals. He especially did not like dogs.
Really?
He liked animals in general.
Wow.
After that,
Huh. That's interesting. I'm glad he looked that up. So Albert died then, huh?
oh, he did only use rats. Dogs were also in the study.
Okay, use dogs as well. Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, good job looking into that. Maybe you can do that as your experiment, okay, for your
15-pound baby.
he's a big old baby.
Oh, my baby. That's like getting breakfast with Albert.
Little Albert, more like Big Albert.
Yeah, right?
Or Fat Albert, right?
Oh, my God.
Hey, hey, hey. All right. That's funny. All right, so I'll give you some time to work on the terms. Actually, I can't play music because if I do, the video that I'll post on YouTube will get copyrighted, and I'll probably have to take it down. So, sorry, no music. Well, maybe I can play it over the screen. Think of that. I know I can't. Actually, maybe I can plug it into here. Might hear a loud noise again. Remember, vocab's due tomorrow. Those of you at home, please email it to me tomorrow. Okay, I won't accept it Saturday, Sunday, or next week. All right, Skinner. Ever see Joe Dirt? Alex, you ever see Joe Dirt? No, you never did. Oh, you have to watch that. My favorite band, AC/DC, Def Leppard, Skinner. All right. So, you guys remember I posted a contemporary approaches assignment? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, I'd like you to pull that out. We're just going to go over 2 of them today, and I'll put them up on the slides so that you have that as a study tool. So, contemporary approaches. So the first one, real quick, I want to go over today. Let me find it quick. There it is. Instructions. We're going to go over biological approach, okay? And we're going to talk about the humanistic, right? So we already went over behavioral, which is good. So humanistic, who would like to tell me what that is? Real quick. Humanistic approach to psychology. Lily, what do you got?
Humanistic psychology developed as a result of behavioral psychology. Humanists describe human nature as evolving and self-directing. Humanistic psychology maintains that instead of the environment controlling the way humans grow, each person has a self-concept and potential to develop fully. This potential to grow will lead to a more fulfilling.
All right, good job. So we're going to talk about Maslow's hierarchy, hopefully by today. If not, we'll do it Monday, okay? But Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he describes that as how people develop over time and how they need these certain certain characteristics, behaviors, okay, people, relationships in their life, okay, hobbies it might be, necessities, to move on throughout this hierarchy to finally feel comfort and relaxation, okay? We'll talk about that hopefully by today. If not, we'll maybe get to it by Monday. All right. I wanted to go over developmental, but it's not on here. We'll talk about biological. So who would like to say biological? Rooster, you got that?
Psychobiologists study how biology affects our behaviors. They study parts of us like the brain and nervous system, see how effective behaviors might be passed down.
Yeah, good job. So using biology, understanding the nervous system, the endocrine system, and relating it how these new technologies can study the brain and our body and how it relates to our mind. Okay, how our mind helps and regulates our body temperature, right? How it might help us move with reflexes. Okay, there's many things that we can connect with the body and the mind. And who brought that idea to light during the Middle Ages, during the Renaissance period? What was his name? You guys remember? Remember the origins of psychology? What was that guy's name? He called it dualism. Oh, you're looking. Do you remember, Lily? Does anybody know? Go ahead, Alex.
Renee.
You got it. Yep, Renee. My boy Renee came up with dualism. Yep, you got it. Good job. So relating how our body and our mind work together. Okay, understanding the biological nature and how our body goes through different phases and how we can grow and develop over time, and relating how the body and the mind go together. This dualistic idea. Okay, that came out what, 1600s? Okay, we're still understanding it today, even a little bit more now with technology, scanning the brain and understanding how our body works. Okay, so psychology today. A lot of these approaches you just looked up in the contemporary approaches, right? That activity that I had you do a while ago. We're just going to go over biological psychology, okay, which kind of includes the evolutionary form of psychology, and then we'll move on today with developmental psychology, Piaget's developmental stages. All right, Eric Erickson came up with a few other ones, but right now I just want you to know Piaget's, okay? So you should already have these labeled down on your contemporary approaches, so you don't need to copy these down right now. It's on that activity, okay? So psychology and perspectives. Guys, there's different approaches to psychology. There's many different perspectives that you can use to try to analyze or observe different characteristics in an organism or a person, okay, and maybe solve and benefit that person or organism. Okay, how can we look to help these people out? How can we figure it out? Okay, there's many different approaches and perspectives to psychology that you can use. All right, there's not just one that you can label down and understand fully. Okay, yeah, there might be some approaches or perspectives that explain behaviors, observable events a little bit more in detail, but for the most part, there's many different perspectives, many different approaches, many different answers you can get by observing one thing or one person, okay? Does that make sense, guys? So we got to look at it through a different lens. Okay, there's multiple lenses that you can look at a certain person or a characteristic or personality, and look to explain it by different approaches and perspectives. All right, so again, you don't have to really copy that down too much, just because the perspectives, again, there's just multiple perspectives and approaches that you can utilize in psychology. First one I want to talk about, biological view, okay? How our body's made up. And obviously now this is a little bit more, you can study it a little bit more in detail than what you could, let's say, with Renee back in the 1500s, okay, 1600s, because we have the technology to do so. We have PET scans, MRI, okay, fMRIs, x-rays, to really understand the body and how it functions and how it can relate it to the way our brain operates, and how we can focus on the way our body works. Okay, this dualistic idea was the basis of this. Okay, how we can relate how our body and mind work together with our nervous system, the endocrine system, how neural fibers and neural transmission occurs and how it happens. Okay, how we can send signals from our brain to our body, how we can send signals from our body to our brain to react and form some sort of reflexes. Cognitive development, understanding different skills and fluid motions, right, TC? Okay. So throwing a football, you just couldn't just do it right away. You had to learn it over time, practice. And even if you take a break, let's say over the winter months to do basketball or baseball, right? When you pick up that football, you're going to be able to throw it as good as you are now after many hours of practice? Probably not. Okay, these motor skills are going to be increased over time, and the brain and how it functions and how it focuses these neural connections to complete this task. Okay, needs to be built on. Okay, you need to strengthen these neural fibers, these neural connections, and that happens with practice. Okay, we'll talk about neural connection more in chapter 3, and the brain and how it functions. Okay, it's different parts. But the biological view, okay, goes along a lot with the evolutionary theory, the survival of the fittest, how certain traits, how certain genes are passed down to their offspring. Okay, the most dominant traits will, anyway. These recessive traits will kind of weed out towards the end. We'll still see some here and there, but for the most part, these dominant traits, okay, these dominant genes will be presented and seen in the offspring moving forward. Okay, and how this is interwoven. Okay, this theory of evolution, this natural selection, is really depicted within biological psychology. So our body, our mind is always looking to adapt over time. Okay. This is kind of like a subtopic, a sub-branch of biological psychology, this evolutionary theory, this evolutionary approach. So how certain characteristics, personality traits, okay, are seen in offspring and years past. The parents or of these people, how these dominant traits are seen and presented. Okay. Again, nature versus nurture. Some instinctual characteristics and personalities are presented, and we really don't have to work on them. We really don't have to practice them over. It's just kind of born with us. It's kind of grown with us over time. We don't have to practice these certain characteristics or personalities. Obviously, there's ways that I kind of mimic my dad. Okay, the way I walk or how I talk. Okay, these things are just kind of learned over time. I don't have to constantly think and practice this. It just happens fluently. Okay, and this kind of challenges that nature versus nurture aspect as well. All right, so natural selection, like I was saying before. Okay, how heredity, culture, how it can form these things within our life, and how we can base it to build our personality. Okay, obviously, we learn some characteristics and personalities from our friends. Okay, from people that we observe. Okay, it might be who we watch on our television shows. Okay, we might start picking up characteristics the way we maybe admire them in movies, or how we admire people in our lives. Does that make sense? Okay. Humor, especially. Humor especially. There's many different comedians that I like, that I try to maybe say the same jokes or try to build my personality around. Okay, it doesn't always come from your parents. It doesn't always come from the people you grow up with. But the relationships that we build, the people that we surround ourselves with, we can cognitively learn and try to build characteristics that we admire, see that fits us, and try to mimic them. All right, so this sociobiological evolutionary theory, this natural selection, how genes and how different traits, personalities carry from our parents, okay, to us, so on and so forth. The survival of the fittest is these recessive and dominant traits. All right, so developmental stages, real quick. Where's my chalk here? There it is. Thought I had it on my desk. All right, developmental view. I don't know if we'll get to humanistic. We'll just talk about the developmental view and how we can use Piaget's stages to explain that. Again, there's more psychologists that have perspectives on the developmental view, but we'll just talk about Piaget. Okay, so developmental view, real quick. We have 4 different stages. Okay, 4 different stages. But the developmental view emphasizes change that occur across our lifespan. Makes sense, right? How we're developing over time. How we're trying to grow into the people we are today. Okay, is it nature? Is it nurture? That's the thing. That's the question. Always in psychology. Okay, what's a bigger impact on us? Heredity or environment? The people we surround ourselves with. Okay, but Piaget came up with this idea of how we can maybe label our developmental stages. How we grow, and maybe put a standard or a certain aspect of how people develop over time. So Piaget's stages, first one, sensory motor. So I guess we can say birth to 2 years old, right? Certain characteristics that we see within the sensory motor stage is object permanence, okay? So object permanence. You ever play peekaboo with the baby, right? You know how babies are always trying to put things in their mouth and grab things and walk around. Well, they try to walk, but crawl, okay? How they're constantly tasting things, putting it in their mouth, like I said, or grabbing, or constantly just trying to sense the world around them. All right, that's an easy way to remember it. So sensory motor, babies are always trying to sense the world around them. Grabbing it, touching it, putting it in their mouth, trying to bite it, trying to taste it, smell, hearing. Okay, so we can say that senses, right, fall under this sensory motor stage. Object permanence, like I said, okay, whenever you're playing peekaboo with a baby, they can't really realize that, hey, whenever they put their hands in front of their face, they're gone, they vanish. Like, where'd they go? They disappeared. And when you appear, again, when you move your hands away from your face, you're like, oh my gosh, where'd you go? I couldn't believe it. You at one point you disappeared, and now you're back here again. So object permanence, okay? Okay. So like I said, sensory motor, pretty much the basis of it is sensing information, sensing the world around them, environment, tasting, touching, you name it, and object permanence. Okay, whenever you disappear, right, by playing peekaboo, and you suddenly appear, babies just can't understand that. They don't get it, really. Okay, so from birth to 2 years old. Second stage, okay, pre-operational. So this is toddler age, 2 to 7. Learning to talk, right? Walk. Okay, and we see a lot of egocentrism. Okay, egocentrism. What does that mean? What does it mean if you're egocentric? What do you think, TC? Okay, all right. So if you're egocentric, that kind of means that you see the world through, you try to observe people that they see the world through your eyes, okay? That everything's revolved around your belief or your opinion on something. So it's like me, okay? This is the way I see it, so that's the only way, this is, the only perspective that you could have. Does that make sense? Okay? So that you're not seeing life through other people's eyes, or you're not fitting in other people's shoes, per se. Okay? You're egocentric. Okay, you're always trying to see the world through your eyes, and you're not accepting the point that there's different perspectives, there's different sights and viewpoints on certain matters. Okay. Imaginary friends. You guys ever have an imaginary friend, right? I did when I was little. Okay, his name was Beep Beep. It was weird. It was like a bird. Okay, I was just like talk to this imaginary friend. My parents would be like, "Why? What are you doing?" But kids at a young age, 2 to 7 years old, they believe in imaginary friends. They play outside and do cowboys and Indians. You know, playing out in the backyard or playing imaginary football with each other. That's what I used to do. Like, oh, I'm running for touchdowns and doing spin moves in the backyard. And then when I was older, I'm like, man, that had to look like a sight. My neighbors were probably watching me doing these spin moves and jumping in the air and running and stiff arming fake people. It's like, what is he doing out there? Well, that's what I did. I always just imagine things in my mind the way I would want it to be. Okay, you're always trying to look for I guess you could say, a comfort zone. Okay, during this stage, you're always trying to maybe look at goals and setting objectives through your mind and how you're going to accomplish that. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So thinking, right? And then imaginary friends. Okay, so you're thinking, right? Okay, you're still egocentric during this stage as well. So you'll still only see the world through your own eyes. Okay, you're not accepting other people's perspectives or viewpoints. Okay, now I'm running out of room here. So next one, concrete operational. All right, the 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven, okay. Go there for drinks later, right? Some Slurpees. I'm just kidding. So pre-operational. So you're putting meaning to certain things, right? Okay, so this is like deductive reasoning. What is deductive reasoning? What does that mean? So 3 plus 5 equals 8. What does 8 minus 5 mean? What is that? 3, right? Okay, 3. So deductive reasoning, you're piecing things together. If I can turn that light on by flicking that switch up, that means the way to turn off that light is hitting that switch down. So deductive reasoning. We can read and write. Okay, we're pretty much understanding basic mathematics and basic reading techniques, writing techniques. Okay. We're always very curious. Do you ever have like a little brother or a relative coming up? Why? Why? That's the favorite thing to do. Why? You know, why do you do this certain thing? Or why do you do this? Or, you know, why is it cold outside? Or why is everything going on the way around? The why questions, okay? So that's the age where everybody or everything is just a question. You're always trying to understand the basic connections and why people do certain things, okay? So I could just put like the why. Question 1. Okay. The why. So at this stage, there's still imaginary friends, I guess, and there's toys. Okay, the fascination of toys, always using objects and trying to build connections with these objects in real life scenarios. Okay, I always had a bunch of figurines, a bunch of army men. I used to love army men and Batman figures. Okay, so toys and objects and how you're trying to piece certain settings and certain storylines to that. Okay, again, imagination is still roaming at this time in the pre-operational and the concrete operational. And the last one, where you're at, your final stage. Your final stage. Okay, that is a formal operation. Formal operational. And I guess we'll finish that tomorrow. I'm sorry, guys. Formal operational is that you're using rationale, okay? You're using reasoning to understand certain events. You're accepting other perspectives, okay? We'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Sorry to get to finish that last one. We'll discuss it, talk over it.
I know last time we were
turn off this here.
Correct. If he doesn't come in, then no.
I think I'm okay with that.